This is a Sandy Boy Productions podcast.
Welcome to Finish Lines and Milestones, a podcast for everyday runners. I'm your host, Allie Bretnacher, and if you run, you're a runner, and every runner has a story. Join me each week as I share these stories and we celebrate finish lines and milestones together. This week's episode is brought to you by Amazfit. Amazfit is a global smart wearable brand that designs smartwatches, fitness trackers, and health technology for active lifestyles. If you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen this really funny video of a guy trying to charge his Garmin watch. And he was like really carefully plugging it in and not moving just to make sure he could get it just right so it would charge. That was me, so relatable, before I got my Amazfit Balance 2 watch, which sits on the charger, so easy, no problems. So that was my commercial for Amazfit. If you also struggle with charging your smartwatch, you should check out Amazfit. They have a wide variety of products and they have a price point that really can't be beat. The Balance 2 watch that I use is $299, which for something with a similar functionality from another brand might be 2 or 3 times that much. And not only is it easy to charge, but the battery life lasts for 21 days. So if you want to check out Amazfit, you can go to amazfit.com. That's AMAZFIT.com. And you can use code AllieB for 10% off your order. Thank you, Amazfit, for supporting this podcast. Before we get into this week's guest, I do want to point out that if you're listening to this show when it comes out on February 13th, tomorrow, Valentine's Day, February 14th, is the first of the 3 miler series for the 500 Festival Indianapolis Mini Marathon. So if you're local to Indianapolis and you're starting up your training, these races are a great way to stick with your training and practice in a race environment. So the 3 miler is 2:14. Then we have the 6 miler on March 7th and the 10 miler is on April 11th. So hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. All right. And now this week's guest, actually her first half marathon was the mini marathon. This week's guest is Gretchen Hercamp. I met Gretchen and her twin sister Bridgett last year at the Carmel Marathon expo. And man, I had no idea what she had been through at that point in her life, and what she continues to do after what she's been through is absolutely amazing. This woman has had 2 brain surgeries, and last year, 2025, she ran 1,000 miles. Mic drop at that. You got to hear her story because I know that you're going to be very inspired by Gretchen Hercamp. Enjoy. Gretchen Hercamp, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I think it's so funny that you felt like your story wasn't worthy of being on a podcast. Your story is insane.
It's insane, but I think it's like when it happens in like your real life and you're kind of almost like desensitized to it, like saying it out loud definitely feels weird. But yeah, it's like, oh no, I've had 2 brain surgeries. I had 2 brain surgeries in less than 2 years and then ran 3 marathons in the span of the 2 years following each of those surgeries.
I mean, it's just like, yeah. And you say that in a sentence and you're like, I'm sorry, what? And when I had first met you, I think I met you and Bridgett, your twin, at Carmel for the first time, maybe when I was at my athlete booth.
At the expo, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I remember just meeting you, chatting with you. I'm pretty sure that did not come up.
No. Yeah.
I mean, not like you shake hands and you're like, hello, I've had 2 brain surgeries.
Yeah.
But later, I think I saw it for the first time in the Indy Mini Facebook group.
Yeah. Ryan.
Or was it the Monumental?
It was Monumental because
Monumental.
Ryan, I have a Facebook, but I'm not on it very often. But like he'll post stuff, especially like he's had his own like bout of health issues.
Right,
so,
which is a whole nother story, which we could tell alongside this.
We could spend like hours talking about like his own issues, but he had shared a little bit about both of our experiences and the races we both did last year. And he's from Seymour. So like he does they have an annual Oktoberfest every year and they do a 5K and he's won it a few years and I'm more of like a medium speed runner and he's run since he was 15 and he's only gotten like quicker and he beats himself. It's like self-deprecating. Like I'm not as fast as I was in my late 20s, but it's like, but life happened. Like we had issues and then we had a kid and then we had all these issues and like, that's just a part of it. But yeah, so he is more forward with that, especially in like public ways where it's like all my coworkers and like the people in like our close circle have provided all the meal train stuff and have been around to see like from when I first shared that I had a tumor to like after my second surgery and then running all the races after that second surgery. So yeah. It's crazy.
It is so crazy. So how did you first find out that you had a brain tumor? Because this is also tied into getting pregnant for the first time.
So kind of. So I had a really regular period. I say enviously regular period, like second week of every month kind of regularity. So we didn't really have to try Miles, we had just gotten engaged. And then about a month later, we found out we were pregnant. And then a month later, I was in Bloomington working for the foundation. So it all happened really quickly. So that was Miles is 8. He's born in 2017. And in December of 2021, I got off birth control because we were going to try to have our second.
Okay.
And my twin sister had just had her second. And we're like, we weren't really sure if we wanted more than one initially because everything happened so fast. Yeah. And then so I got off birth control and I was like, oh, my period's going to start back up again. And I'm going to be ready to go. My period never came back. So I was on the Nexplanon, so like I didn't have a period because it's a non-hormonal birth control, and I don't know if that was non-hormonal back when I was breastfeeding, and then was on the Nexplanon. But I got that implant removed and was like ready to go. And summer 2022, it never came back. Like we're talking like 6-7 months later. So my OBGYN runs a few different tests. We go through I call it a Provera challenge, which is where they basically flush your system with progesterone to try to get you to start your period.
That doesn't sound very fun.
And lots of pills, and nothing happened. So I'm like, okay, this isn't what I was expecting. I was expecting it to be so much easier because everything had been easy up until that point.
Yeah.
And then she ran some blood work in the first week of school. So Ryan's a special education teacher. So everything kind of feels like a cycle, right? There's summer break and then school starts and then, So I remember it was the first week of August and I had all this, my OBGYN ordered a ton of blood work to check out where my hormone levels were. And, that's the double-edged sword about having something like the IU Health portal, because you can see all of yours. You get a text message when your results are ready. Right. And then it's like, there's curiosity killed the cat. Like you go on because you're like, I'm going to see
Is that how you found out?
So not that I had a tumor, but I saw my estrogen levels were like there's like a scale and it was like postmenopausal low. And I'm like, oh my God, did I go through perimenopause in the last several years and just like not know it? So I call my doctor and like leave a voicemail, like in a panic. I'm like, I don't know what this means. Like it was like barely, the estrogen levels were barely readable in my system. And she called me back. It was a Friday. It was the first Friday of the school year because we had gone out for pizza, and she called me back and she was like, I understand your concern about your estrogen levels, but I'm more concerned about your prolactin levels. So prolactin is the hormone you secrete when you're breastfeeding. I hadn't breastfed in like 3.5 or 4 years. So like it had been a long time. And she's like, it might not mean anything. Maybe your pituitary tumor is just kind of acting out, but usually that can be a marker of a pituitary tumor, is like an excess of one of these like reproductive related hormones. So she's like, I'm going to order an MRI. I'm going to refer you to a neurosurgeon, and I'm going to refer you to an endocrinologist. And she's like, usually it's really hard to get into an endocrinologist. So like you might hear from your neurosurgeon first. That was at the beginning of August. I have an MRI. Luckily, you can't see those images online, or I probably would have driven myself crazy because I couldn't get in to see my neurosurgeon, Dr. Shaw, until the beginning of October.
Okay.
So it was my eldest sister's birthday. And I remember coming up, I live in Bloomington. So like coming up and going to the neuroscience center just south of Methodist. And I met Dr. Shaw for the first time, and he pulls up my MRI image, and like my tumor is this big and it's sitting right behind my nose and like pushing up on my optic nerves. And so it's about like the size of a walnut.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't know for sure. He's like, your prolactin levels are elevated. I don't know if it's they call it, if it is like not an active tumor, but like if it's one if the tumor itself is secreting the hormones, or if it's pushing on your pituitary tumor in such a way that it is, but you're going to need to have surgery. And I was like, okay. I imagined that there would be medication or something I didn't know if it was cancerous. I didn't know and if it were secreting the hormones itself, the way Dr. Shaw explained it to me, if it was secreting the hormones itself, I could take a medication and it could shrink it. Well, after looking at my levels, he's like, it would be much more elevated. Your prolactin levels would be much higher if it were secreting it. He was like, it's how it's pressing on your pituitary gland that's creating that excess. So he was like, what are we thinking about December? He's like, I'm going to present this to the tumor board, but again, this is early October of 22.
There's a tumor board? That's interesting.
Yeah. So it basically, they're experts at the different kinds of tumors and different kinds of surgery. So it's that he presents it to the tumor board and they determine is this something that is deemed medically necessary? What is the best way to tackle the tumor?
Yeah.
So he calls me back. He's like, what about December? And I was like, my husband's scheduled for kidney surgery in December, and we'll have a 5-year-old at that point, and we can't both be under. I can't do that to my family. I can't do that to poor Miles, our son. And he was like, okay, well, let's shoot for January. So between December of Ryan had it was his second kidney surgery. His first one almost killed him in December of 2020. So again, Ryan has his own story.
He'll be on the podcast at some point.
But it was one of those things, we kind of lived it up in the fall of 22 because we both had these huge surgeries happening, and Miles turned 5 that year. So we didn't know how much he was aware that mom and dad were having issues.
Right. Which is probably, that's such a blessing.
Yeah. And so I have 3 sisters, including my twin sister.
Okay, I did not know that.
And so Katie is the eldest. She is 11 years older. Heidi is second eldest. She's 8 years older. And then there's Bridgett, myself. So this is 8 years between us. So age gaps have never been, so us having, toying around with the idea of continuing to try to expand our family at this point. I'm not afraid of age gaps because we're very close with our big sisters. And honestly, they were the ones that came in. They came down and took care of Miles when I had surgery so Ryan could be with me. And it has been, I couldn't have done so. I'm grateful. So at one point, Bridgett's lived in a lot of different states. So Bridgett's my twin sister, but she had just moved back to Indianapolis right around the time I got diagnosed with that tumor.
Wow.
So it was one of those things that I live in Bloomington. I don't mind driving. I'm from Indianapolis. And especially when Ryan and I were dating, they had 69, or I guess it was 37, turning into 69 on that south connector between Indianapolis and Bloomington. They had it down to 1 lane for several miles. So by then it was basically almost completely done. So it was not a big deal to go back and forth, but I'm so grateful for my sisters. And my parents are wonderful too, but my big sisters all have grown kids now. So they love being able to soak up those moments with Miles and Bridget's kids, because it's a new generation of nephews. But it has been a lot. So that was my first surgery.
Okay. All right. And where are you from?
I'm from the south side of
Indianapolis.
Indianapolis.
That's what you said, Indianapolis. Okay, south side. Okay, and so do your parents still live in Indy?
Yeah. So my mom still lives in the University Heights area, which is just south of the University of Indianapolis.
Okay.
So she lives in a little college neighborhood, definitely reminds me of a neighborhood I would have lived in at Ball State, or the neighborhoods we walked through when we're going to games at IU.
Yeah.
Only she's just holding down the fort as a retiree, and so I love Indianapolis. We're setting our roots down in Bloomington, but I don't mind making the drive up here, especially because of that hometown. It's hard to get away from your hometown. Are you from India?
I'm from this area.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yeah.
you get it.
Yes.
Because I know you went to college out of state.
Yes, barely.
Yeah.
Miami of Ohio is 5 miles across the border.
You probably still had to pay out of state tuition.
Absolutely did. Sorry, Mom and Dad. Yeah. So, okay, before we talk about surgery number 2, where is running alongside of this?
So running has kind of been peppered through. I ran track, but I was a 400 runner, and I wasn't great. It was more you run 400. I was assigned as a 400 runner, not because I was good at it, but because you need bodies to run. And it's probably a lot different. Yeah, I went to high school in the early 2000s. So track and cross country, those things have continuously gotten more and more popular for the further I get out of high school. But my twin sister was always a distance runner. So I ran a couple of 5Ks in my early 20s. And then I being from Indianapolis and going to the 500, I was like, I want to eventually run the Mini. So in 2014, I ran the Mini for the first time. And at that point, I had run a few 5Ks. And the year before, I had run my first 10K. So it was kind of like a slow build to like the longer distances. And I think sometimes that's hard, especially with so much being on social media, where sometimes it feels like the pipeline from 5K to ultra marathon is like six months.
Oh my gosh. That's exactly how I feel. Yeah.
And like, I think distance is a great way to deal with like trauma, like, and I've used that in like my recovery from my surgeries, but like, you know, from like childhood trauma, like it's been a great outlet. I kind of have to like pause and like admit like the amount of time it's taken, and like the journey is, each year I feel like I get to do this. I have a little bit more of appreciation for it. I don't like hate it like I used to, because now I'm not chasing. It's great to like PR, but like it's also really nice to like have the outlet, especially when there's so much in the world that we can't control. I can control where I am right now, and like where I'm heading. But yeah, so first half marathon was the Mini in 2014. And then I kept thinking, I'm going to run a marathon. I'm going to do it. I remember every once in a while I see like, you know, I remember posting things on like Facebook in like 2013 and 2014, right around the same time I ran like that first 10K, like I'm going to run the Chicago Marathon, and very like borderline cringy, because it's not like I had a plan to get there. It was more like, I'm going to do this. And it's so funny because of how long it took to get there. And it's not for a lack of like trying. Bridgett and I actually signed up. So she ran California International Marathon in like 2010. She was living in San Francisco.
Okay.
So like,
as her first marathon.
As her first marathon. And I was like, at that point, North Face did the North Face Endurance Challenge, and they had a course that was right outside San Francisco. We signed up for it. Like in your 20s, you don't have any other, I think I was living with my big sister. Like we didn't have any other bills. Like we never did it. We didn't buy tickets. We didn't we tried to blog about our training. It was like twins trail training. Like we were trying to be like cutesy about it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that is still out there. That blog is still out there, and probably I'm afraid to go out and read what I wrote and at that point in my life. But then life happens, and she moved from San Francisco to Vegas. Her husband works in the National Weather Service, so it's kind of like that was like his first like big job out after grad school.
What a bonus as a runner to have that asset.
Yeah. But like life just kind of like happened, and then we didn't really talk about it. I didn't run very often. I got really into like weight training, not like you know,
CrossFit
or anything, stuff, but like just weight training on the sporadic basis. I think I did P90X for a while. It's you know, the 2010s, you know? So, but yeah, so 2014, first Mini, and then I wouldn't run another half marathon until after Miles was born. So it was the Mini of 2019.
Okay.
That I would run it again. So, and it was just a whole different, you know, when you're training with a kid, you're pushing a stroller, and in Bloomington, everything has to be hilly. So even like the flat trails are still like much hillier than anything I ever did training for the Mini up here. I was living up by 56th Street when I ran it the first time.
Okay.
And so I would run through Eagle Creek, which was wonderful.
Yes.
But yeah. And then, so in 2020, Bridgett and I sign up. She's living in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Her husband works in Milwaukee. We sign up for the Lakefront Marathon for October 2020. I go up there, and again, it's pandemic, but like we're family, so like we get together. We're still I'm still taking Miles up there for weekends over the summer. We're trying to train as much as we can together, even though we live several hours apart. And then they cancel it because everything ended up being canceled. And they're like, well, we said we could do the virtual option, but I was like, no, if I'm going to run my first marathon, I want to do it in person. Like I want to experience all of the things.
People did their first marathons during COVID virtually, and that's crazy.
Well, that like the mental like tenacity that takes to like commit to that virtually, like and not have all the benefits of like the crowd and like
I did probably not the only, but the longest I'd done virtually was the Indy Mini in 2020, and then I skipped it in 2021 because I didn't want to do a virtual again. Like it was fun at the time because it was like the first time I ever did that. So I like planned a route by friends' houses, and you know, it was fun-ish, but it was still like really hard because there's no fanfare. You're just, I mean, there's some thanks to my friends, but yeah, it's not the same.
It feels like a long run,
Yeah.
and not like not like a fun. And don't get me wrong, like there are definitely moments in a marathon where you're like, oh my, this is not fun. I'm not having fun. I feel like the closest I've ever hit to a wall, what has been like right around Butler for the Monumental. So Monumental was my first marathon in 2023. This was 9 months after my first brain surgery.
Which, okay. Yeah. So also you find out it's not cancerous, right? At some point in there too, which is like, did you think you had cancer? Did you tell yourself, oh, I probably have cancer?
No, I think that was probably...
That's what I would do.
Yeah, no, I think that was more of like I need to protect like my heart at that point, like the tumor piece and knowing I was going to have like brain surgery and like also trying to like save face for like my family who was also like actively freaking out. Like having a twin sister, like we know how to press each other's buttons and we know how to like get on each other's nerves, but like we also like overshare and overcare and like everything just, so I know that even though it wasn't her issue, it was her issue.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And she also had like the perspective. So her eldest son is 3 months older than Miles. So like to try to see that perspective too, that like, oh, well, she's dealing with all of this and she's trying to deal with a kindergartner. And so I tried not to go like,
good for
worst
you.
Case scenario.
Yeah, good.
Well, and like Ryan's mom passed of cancer in 2006. So like anytime we talk the C word, like, and there have been some, you know, he's had issues where he's had extra tests to verify he doesn't have any kind of like markers for cancer. And like, I think because it's hit so close to home, it's like, I can't go there. I think I did ask Dr. Shaw, like, what's the potential of this being cancerous? And he did a great job of not scaring me to death, thinking like worst case scenario that like it's pretty unlikely. We will send it out for tests. You will know what our results are, but we just need to get through the surgery because this is going to start impacting your like, you know, you want to grow your family. This is not just that, like it's going to start affecting your vision if it continues to grow and push up on that optic nerve. So
also crazy that you didn't have severe headaches.
Yeah. So I had like migraines, but like I just kind of tossed it up to like tension headaches and, you know, usually probably around my period, you know, when I had my period.
So you're like,
so I'm thinking like, this is normal. And I think as women, we do that. We justify everything because we even like finding the right doctors to like listen to us when we're trying to advocate for ourselves is a whole other thing too. Dr. Manley, my OBGYN, could have been like, well, it's okay. Like maybe you did go through perimenopause, but she was like, no, we're going to keep running these tests. And again, I wouldn't have found my tumor as soon as I did without her help. And I think it helps that she was a lady. And and I mean, don't get me wrong, my neurosurgeon is a very talented dude and is like the best. He's like literally like the interim chair of that department at the School of Medicine. So like he's wonderful. And he does a great job of listening and explaining, and it wasn't cancerous. I was grateful that he explained it in a way that my brain didn't run off with that. But it also gave me peace of mind and gave me at least a little bit of, okay, I can explain this to my family that this is big and this is scary, but I'm in like the best possible hands. And like, if it is, we will just deal with it then. Like we will deal with it then. But when I was like, isn't there like a medication that can shrink this? He was like, it's not that kind of tumor. So like, you know, not that like that kind of medication is like even easy to like deal with. And that would have been if it were like a hormone secreting tumor. Okay. Then they would have fought it with like other hormones, not like radiation or especially because of how close it is to your eyes. Like they don't, that's like a worst case scenario. And then, but we can talk about when that was even discussed after, as we found out it was regrowing. Spoiler alert, because I've had 2 surgeries. Right.
Gosh, like, did they tell you after the first one, like, hey, did you do routine checks at all to like see if it would come like?
Yeah. So every 6 months I would go in for an MRI, and I would go in for an MRI. Like that was pretty standard just so they could track to see if it would grow. So during my first surgery, I sprung a like cerebral fluid leak. So brain surgery makes it seem like they're coming through here.
Okay.
They went through my nose.
Really?
Yeah. So it was like
I
a
pictured
sinus
like
surgery.
half of your head shaved. Like
I was fortunate in that way, but yeah. So I sprung a leak. They had to take a little bit of material from my belly and get it all blocked up there.
Whoa,
and then
crazy.
they had to leave a little sliver in. Now, after my first surgery, he was like, it's very unlikely this will grow. If it starts to grow at all, like 5 to 10 years down the road, we will keep a watch on it. But like if you have so many MRIs that are good, like show limited growth or no growth at all, then we will move you to 5 year every year or once a year, and then maybe once every 5 years. So I knew there was a little sliver left in there, and it was basically where like the stalk was, like where it started growing in the first place, and it was off to the side, and it was right underneath my carotid artery. So I figured if they left it in there, and he said it's unlikely to grow, I'm not worried about it. I didn't think about it regrowing at all, to be completely honest. I'm done. Like, 2023 is going to be the best year ever because I got this done. And then I've got these big goals. And yeah, so life moved on. We got to see Taylor Swift in 2023. So like I took Miles to Cincinnati and we went on multiple vacations. It was our second year of being season ticket holders for IU football. So like life was good. And at the end, especially like as the further we got out from surgery, like I felt better. I felt stronger. I watched Bridgett run the Mini that year and I had such FOMO. Like Heidi, Katie, and myself, we went and watched her on the course. And it was my first time as a spectator for the Mini. And I had so much FOMO. I was so proud of her. Like I was like crying when she like crossed the finish line. But I had so much FOMO too because I'm like, I want to do that.
Yeah. Why didn't you do it at that time?
Because I wouldn't have had like a full I think I didn't get the all clear to even start working out until like 6 weeks after surgery. Okay. So that put me like March. So
right. Okay. Yeah. So, that would have been a little.
It was like mid-March too.
Yeah.
So like and I hadn't been like training. So like I was in a hospital bed. I reacted really poorly to my first surgery. It was a success, but like my body didn't respond well to it. So like it was a lot to like even just get up out of like my bed and just walk down the hallway. Yeah. So I felt like when I started training, I would need to like, let's start seeing, can I walk for 10 minutes at a time? Yeah. If I can walk for 10 minutes at a time, can I jog for a couple minutes and then walk? And like, I felt like I had never run before. Right. Because I didn't really know how my body would respond after that surgery. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I guess now it's like, well, duh. Yeah, the timeline of, was surgery in January of 23?
Yeah.
But you were diagnosed in late 22. Mm-hmm. Okay. So then no wonder you didn't. But 9 months after your surgery.
Monumental was in late October that year.
Oh, yeah. The 1 year we've had it in October. Maybe not the only time. But
it was great weather. Like, so Bridgett was like, hey, I'm going to sign up for this race. Like, we should do it together. And I was like, I hate to say, like, it definitely shouldn't take some like traumatic event to be like, if not now, then when? But like, that is very much like, I'm going to throw myself into this because look what I can do. I just went through this brain surgery. Of course, I'm going to like try to like push my body to the limits because it tried to push itself to the limits without being asked.
Right.
So, without asking its permission first. So so we ran, we trained, we did a full training block for Monumental of 2023. And it's my first marathon. It only took, like I said, my first half marathon was 2014. Yeah. So now we're talking spring of 2014 was my first mini. October 2023 was my first full. And I met Carlton Ray.
Okay, I'm so excited that you have a Carlton story.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, tell me about it.
So
Carlton, by the way, is the founder and creator of Monumental. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know that. And Bridgett and I stayed at the JW, even though she lives in Avon. Like, it's kind of like a mom's night out because
I love staying downtown for races downtown.
And everything's so convenient. Like, I'm a Bonvoy member, but like it is right in the middle of everything. Yes. And same for the Mini. We've stayed there for the Mini. Yes. So, but we had dinner at OP, and I think it's different now. I think there's a different restaurant now. It was an Italian restaurant down
Osteria
there.
Pronto or something like that. Yeah.
And so we had a girlfriend come down from Porter County because she and her husband came to watch us run the Monumental.
That's a good friend.
So we met up with them at dinner, and then because she had run her first marathon earlier that year. So it was like,
she understood how big of a deal that was, especially after what you had gone through.
Yeah. And so it was. So we were on our way back up, And we noticed this guy in the elevator, and he had like the coolest Brooks like jacket on. And if you're a volunteer, like there's a lot of great like swag you get, like just the benefit of like being involved. And I was like, oh my gosh, did you get that as like a volunteer? Like that is an amazing like jacket. And he was like, yeah, actually I'm the founder. Like, and I don't, he said it in like such a casual way. It didn't hit me until we were out of the elevator that's who we were like talking to. But I was like, this is actually my first marathon. Like we're from Indianapolis. And he was like, well, good luck.
Oh,
like,
he's the best. He listens to this too.
Oh.
Hi, Carlton.
Hi, Carlton. But it was like one of those things, like we got out of the elevator and we're like, oh my gosh. Because Bridgett pulled up I don't even know if he said he was the founder or if he worked for Monumental, like I don't remember. But we were like starstruck when we got on the website and saw his face.
Yeah, you're like, oh.
So we're like, oh my gosh. Which leads me, so the race day, Bridgett is full of grit. Like she's always been like that. Like, but she, at the end, I mean, I was dead at the end. And I was really excited because we were trying to finish between like 4.5 and 5 hours. Like we wanted to keep it broad because I didn't know how I would do, even though we did 2 20-mile training runs during that.
That's great.
During that.
For your first marathon.
Yeah, during that block. But towards the end, there's some great pictures out there because again, I feel like I was like just holding on for dear life to keep up with Bridgett because she takes off. She's got all this momentum. I'm like, slow down, please. Like, I'm going to like I was like, Bridgett, I think I'm going to throw up. And she's like, no, you can do it. You can do it. So we're like, we hold hands at the finish line. And if you look at the pictures, I like slowly bring my hand up like this. Yeah. And I just like, as soon as I like get out of range of the cameras, and not that I'm like, I did that on purpose. That was just sheer luck. I like bend over and like get sick. And someone hands me, it was a can of water. And like, I don't drink anymore because of all the medications I've been on in the last several years. And I was like, no, I don't want any. And she's like, Gretchen, like take it. It's water. And then we walk.
That's funny.
And she was like, do you know who just gave that to you? And I was like, no. She's like, it was Carlton Ray.
Aww.
And like, I don't know. I'm sure he hears stories like that all the time, but like that being my first marathon, and my favorite thing about, and I don't know of other marathons do this, if it's your first marathon, they give you like an extra bib to put on saying like, this is my first marathon, and people will cheer you on. Like I had my actual bib on the front, and then I had, this is my first marathon on the back, and people are cheering you on. So like this year when I ran it for the second time, I was cheering anytime I saw a first, this is my first marathon, because anyone who's ever, whether you're a runner, you understand like the impact and like the boost of energy you get from like spectators. Absolutely. But like when you have another runner who's also trying to like manage their breathing and has their own goals, say like, you got it, like keep, especially towards the end when you're like gassed and you're just so tired, just to say like, you're so close, like you got it. So so that was a really special experience doing the Monumental for the first time in 23.
And did you get your goal, the time goal, too?
Yeah, so we finished.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we
not
finished
that matters.
in 4:34 something.
Dang.
So I was really happy with that, and especially because Bridgett was so good Bridgett was like my in-race coach. And this was her second marathon too. So it's not like she had like years and years of like that she kept, well, we need to watch how fast we're going. Like we're going out too fast. Like we need to bring it back a little bit. She would always like kind of like bring me back into like where I needed to be because I was, you're
helpful.
feeding off the crowd and you're like, I feel so good.
Yes.
So I was so excited about hitting that because like, again, there are a lot of people who have really ambitious running goals. Like Brian would love to qualify for Boston. I mean, I imagine he will eventually qualify for Boston because he's just so tenacious. But like just to be able to say I ran a marathon, whether that's in 3 hours or 5 hours or 7 hours, there's so many people who don't even attempt it.
Yeah.
And like the training block itself is insane.
Yeah, absolutely. Just getting to the start line.
Yeah.
Is a marathon, more than a marathon.
Yeah.
It's especially healthy and I mean, just incredible too for you, like only 9 months after. And you're a mom now too, which is a whole nother thing. Yeah. Like, I mean, even for Bridgett, who didn't have brain surgery.
Yeah. And she had 2 kids. She had 2. Like, so there's
that's amazing.
Cooper, who is Miles' age, and then Calvin, who was born in December of 21. So like, he wasn't even 2 when she ran that marathon.
Amazing.
So
yeah, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, he wasn't even 2 yet because he's born in December. And that was something that's really great, like when you have someone to train with, because
Yes.
like we don't talk about running when we're training. We're talking about life. Like we're talking about like, oh, like Calvin didn't sleep, or like Miles has been having this issue at school, or like we're talking about signing our kids up for sport, or we talk about pop culture, which is also like a huge thing for us because we'll start,
So not to like ask you to trauma dump by any means, but you mentioned earlier running is just kind of helping you work through some of your childhood trauma.
Yeah.
So could you explain how that relationship with running started and how it helped you do that?
Yeah. So my parents got divorced when we were in the second grade. And with having older siblings too, like Heidi was still in high school, but like very much had her own like life happening. There was a lot of times where it was just like Bridgett and I, but I went through some abuse as a kid. I was 9, and then I was just shy of 22 before I told my mom about it. So it's very much like I think about the times where it has felt heaviest on my heart, whether there's been things happening in politics whether things have happened in politics that have been a kind of re-trigger moments and memories and feelings, or again, when things feel out of control, I need like a project. And I won't go too much on like my childhood trauma, but I think a lot about how I've had to handle like all of this business with like my tumor. And all we wanted was to grow our family like that. We just wanted another baby, and the twins were in our family. So like, we're like, I wouldn't be like upset if we got pregnant with twins. Like it'd be like, holy shit, there's 2 of them. But like, but I think about the moments where I couldn't control something. I needed something to be able to control, whether that was, okay, I have to somehow become like a super mom and manage all of my time because there's 24 hours in a day and like something is going to get neglected, whether that's my training or work or whatever. Like, how do I figure out how to make it work? Which is not anything that's just my experience. That is like a universal experience. And even like people who aren't parents, maybe they're caring for like parents, or maybe they're caring for like other family members, or like, we just don't know what kind of history people kind of bring.
Right.
And,
absolutely.
And running is, and endurance sports in general, like you see so much of that, whether that is childhood abuse or losing a parent at a young age. I wonder a lot about Ryan specifically, who, to me, like if I feel like worn down, I take a rest day. I like force a rest day because I don't want to get burned out. I don't want to get injured. And like Ryan is very much like someone who feels guilty for taking a rest day. And there's so many people that that is not just his issue.
I used to be very much that way. Yes.
But like, and I worry about him in that way. But I think too, like, he lost his mom right after he turned 20. So like thinking about that and like thinking about health issues, and it's like I think that is one outlet for him. Again, it's not something that's just something that our family has dealt with, but that's pretty like universal. The Olympics are going on right now. All of these kids have dealt with something in their life, and their sport, like their event, their community that they have found has offered some sort of peace. Even if the training is chaos and it brings them to this like pinnacle event, that there is something that like they've worked their whole lives for. Like there's a male figure skater who lost both of his parents. I was just thinking that. Oh my gosh. I
didn't watch it yet. I need to watch it.
And it's just, imagine like having, and that was like last year, like dealing with so much loss, but like being so inspired to like keep going.
Yeah.
And I know my personal story, and I know the things that like drive me, but like as a parent now, like I want Miles to see that you're going to lose games, and like there are going to be things that like feel so heavy, but like you just have to keep like showing up. And like we want to break down, and we lost our dog in December, and Benny was like my baby. I had Benny before Ryan and I started dating. So like that was hard, but like Miles grew up with Benny. So like having those kind of conversations, like I want him to feel all of the feelings, but know like it's still important to like show up in whatever way you can. Yeah. But like it can be a lot. Yeah. And I don't want to say like my childhood trauma helped prepare me for things like dealing with something as unpredictable as like that, the whole tumor business, pituitary tumor business, like, But it kind of did, because it was, okay, now I have to like show, it's not just showing up for myself. I have to show up for like my family. And like, that's hard to do, to minimize your own feelings, to show up and like be as present with your kids as possible. So yeah.
So much. Yeah. Sweet Benny. Yeah. We have Doug, who is going to be 12 in April, and it's going to be awful. Yeah. He's my first baby.
Yeah.
And like just the change that happens when there's no longer a beloved animal in the house. I'm so sorry.
I work from home. So like
even worse.
I went, and luckily, I don't want to say luckily, it all happened. So my birthday is December 18th, and it was December 22nd when I took him. And like he had gone to multiple vets at that point before it was just like, it's time. But when Miles and Ryan went back to school, so like a couple weeks later, that was the hardest transition. But yeah, it's definitely hard. But again, you have to keep carrying on. Like, and I think with bringing us all back to like running, like that has been the most physical way I can possibly commit to something, is like, okay. And a lot of times, your brain like wanders. Like even if you're listening to music, you're thinking about other things.
Yes.
Like that is very much a great way to like work through some of those feelings. I haven't experienced grief as I've experienced with Benny, because my parents are still alive, but it hits you in waves. And it's like I told Ryan, I was like, he's lost both of his parents. And,
both of his parents.
Yeah, so his dad passed away in March of 2018. So Miles wasn't even 6 months old. It was really sudden. So like was
so sorry.
So I know. And I wish he would talk about his grief so that way he could work through those feelings. But it is very much like it hits you in waves. And I think that's like whether it's also dealing with abuse, it hits in waves. Like there are times where you can try to shove it down as much as you can, but then it just pops up in random places. So then it can either empower you to do more, or honestly, that has been the best part, is like dealing with it, because I feel more empowered to talk about it, because so many people won't talk about it.
So many people have gone through it. Yeah.
And not to throw out statistics. So I used to work for the Y, and I was a camp counselor. So every camp counselor, just like every teacher, has to take child abuse prevention. And in the state of Indiana, it's like 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys before the age of 18. And that is just who reports it. Like, and so I call. So Todd Young and Jim Banks are our senators, and then Aaron Houchin is my state rep, and I call all the time. And it certainly isn't just about the Epstein files, or it is about things that impact our lives every day. And running, like if anything, brings forward this like common humanity. Like I don't care who you voted for. I want you to have the same things that I do. I want everyone to benefit if they need something, So yeah, I've been, in the last year, I've definitely called and emailed and have tried to show up in those ways. I just submitted 2 applications to be on commissions in Bloomington because like I want to be a bigger part of things. But like I don't feel like I could like run, because like we could never go on a single income. Like I could never rely on my husband's special education salary, and especially with the cost of living in Bloomington. So I couldn't like in Fairfield like be able to leave my job to be able to run for office. But the more I talk about my own, whether it's my childhood trauma or like paying off medical bills because I've had 2 brain surgeries, like all of those things, we're in a position of like privilege where I work for an organization as an HSA, and I can contribute to the HSA and they contribute to the HSA, and I can pay off my medical debt without it weighing so heavily on my family. And I have good insurance too. So, but I think about people who don't have that.
Absolutely.
Or people who bust their butts for companies that rake in profits, and they can barely pay their bills and don't have good insurance at all, or don't qualify for insurance. So that's all. I could spend all day talking about that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing something about it. Sometimes, at least, I just feel paralyzed with just the state of the world is just so messed up that it's just like, what the hell? But when I asked you about childhood trauma, I thought you were going to talk about growing up with nothing.
Oh, yeah.
And instead, you were like, well, so it's just like, I can't, what you've been through in your life is just, I can't believe you thought, well, I don't know if I could come on a podcast, because but I mean, you've just been through, your resilience is insane. is insane. I mean, but like you said, you have to keep going through. Otherwise, that's the way you have to go.
Yeah.
So we haven't talked yet about your second brain surgery as well. So we started talking about how you were having scans and the regrowth. And so, okay, at what point... Quick break in the show to tell you about another sponsor of this podcast, Relay Active. Relay Active is a small woman-owned activewear brand that makes incredible products. I've been buying Relay Active for years. I was first influenced by Lindsay Hine, who is the founder of Sandy Boy Productions. And I love everything I've purchased from them. The shorts that I love are the Rachel pocket shorts. They're a 5.7-inch inseam. I need the long shorts. I've tried the 3-inch inseam, just not for these legs. And I love the sports bras as well. I always purchase one that has a phone pocket in the back for when I'm carrying my phone on the run. And it doesn't have an open top, so it actually kind of tucks your phone in. Anyway, highly recommend checking out Relay Active. And if you use code Milestones, you can get 15% off of your order. So go to relayactive.com and treat yourself to some new activewear this Valentine's Day. Sorry, had to. All right, back to the show. So we started talking about how you were having scans and the regrowth. And so, okay, at what point did you go and get a scan where they're like, it's growing enough to where the second surgery had to happen?
July 2024.
Oh my gosh.
So it was like right at a year and a half. I hadn't signed up for Monumental yet, but I was going to run it for the second time with Bridgett because she had already signed up.
And that would have been the next year.
Yeah, that would have been the next year. And I went in for my MRI and felt really good. Like I really, 2024, I felt really good. And at that point I had a couple. So like, I know how to like read the radiology reports and enough of a way to know if something's wrong or if something is okay. And I saw that it was regrowing. And I remember coming out because I work from home and it was summer break and I came out and Ryan was in the living room and I was like, I think it's regrowing. And then I got a call from Dr. Shaw's office and he's like, hey, we want to see you back in again. So I went up. We didn't say anything to Miles. Like Miles knew I had surgery before at that point because Heidi and Katie came and stayed with him and the cool aunts came and stayed with him. And I remember coming back from that appointment at the neuroscience center with Dr. Shaw and he was like, I think we're going to have surgery again. And I was like, is there anything else we can do? Like, I know before you mentioned if it was a secreting hormone that like you could, or secreting tumor that you could fight it with like different hormone therapies. And he was like, well, even if we were to try to do like a radiation to shrink it, it is so close to so many important things in that space. So he was like, I'm going to present it to the tumor board. Now it is very close to your carotid artery because your carotid goes up through. And he was like, but ideally we would like to probably have a second surgery. So this is July of 2024. We agreed October. And they wanted it to be, I want to say they wanted it to be the 20th. That's Miles's birthday. Oh, gosh. And I was like, could we do it like a couple days later? That's my son's birthday. So yeah, October 2024, October 22nd, 2024, I had my second brain surgery. And I was so like worried about not waking up this time. Like that hadn't occurred to me the first time, but like the second time I was like, well, how good can my luck be? Like to like go through this like unfazed twice. Unfazed, like recovery sucks. Right. Yeah. but I remember waking up in like the triage area and I'm sure the nurses probably thought I was like a psycho because I was like talking their ear off and I was like, hey, I'm going to need, because I remember how sick I felt after the first surgery because I do really poorly with painkillers. Yeah. So I was like, same. Could I have like an applesauce? Like I was like asking for things and I was asking names. So I was a lot more with it after the second surgery than I was the first surgery. And I'd get my phone out and I would type in names of like my nurses. So that way when they came back in, I could like talk to them. So I was like a lot more with it and trying to be like more appreciative because I'm so grateful. That is so kind. After brain surgery, Gretchen, everyone needs to just take notes on how thoughtful that is. I think it's really important. Tangent, names. I have like a notes app. In my notes app, I try so hard to like jot down names, people's spouses' names, kids, all, because I have a terrible memory. So if I don't put it somewhere that I can reference it, I'm not going to remember. It was really important. Nice. It was really important for me because like I don't remember that triage area after my first surgery. I remember waking up in the intensive care unit and Ryan and my mom maybe were in there. But this time I was awake from the triage area to the ICU because you have to spend at least 24 hours there after brain surgery. And I remember and they have to like fully like change you out of whatever you had on during your surgery to like more sterile stuff. Jeez. Because you're in the intensive care unit. And I'm like, can I do something different? Can I help? Like trying to like, I don't want to say I was like trying to help, but I was trying not to, because I was unconscious when they did this the first time. I was so in and out of it.
Wow.
But my hospital stay after my first surgery was 6 days. My hospital stay after my second surgery was 3 days. And I was like so much because they had already drilled into all of the space. So all they had to do, I don't want to be like graphic, they had to like lift a flap. That was like such an understatement of the year. But it was a lot easier for them. They didn't have to,
I mean, that makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, so it was,
Still,
and like so because they go through your nose, you can't, like, you have to open mouth sneeze for like 6 weeks. You can't blow your nose.
I've had a septoplasty and it's awful.
It is
a week of just not being able to breathe.
And when they put in a splint.
Yes.
To keep everything open. It's the weirdest feeling. So they took it out like the day, like 1 or 2 days after my surgery. It was right before I was being discharged after my second surgery. I had to keep that sucker in for a week after my first surgery. So then we had to go back up to Indianapolis and have them like remove it. You can't like smile with your upper lip because it's all like so like stiff because like this thing's like the size of your earlobe.
Oh my gosh.
Straight up your nose. Yeah. But it's like first world. I'm so grateful for like my medical team because like, yeah, I could complain about how uncomfortable that was, but like everything went so well after that second surgery. Like didn't spring any leaks, didn't have issues, like was up walking the next day. I had other issues in my recovery after that surgery, but physical issues, not so much. Like I was moving around really well. And even though I didn't get to go, I stayed home while Bridgett ran Monumental. And my big sister Heidi ran the half of...
Oh yeah, because that would have been like a week and a half after your surgery. Yeah.
So Heidi ran the half. So I at home, like, you can track people on the app. And so I'm like, sending text messages and like, again, you kind of have like FOMO from afar, but I'm like, I could not try it. Even if I had a scooter trying to make my way, like it would have been so much on my body just to like be present. But nothing like lights the fire than some trauma. Like what's another project I can focus on? Because so after my second surgery,
2025.
So 2025. Well, my pituitary, I don't know like what my issue with my pituitary gland is now, besides it.
What is the purpose of it?
It controls like everything. So it sends all of these signals to your like reproductive system and your endocrine system in general. So you have your thyroid, your pituitary, your adrenal gland. I guess it stopped talking. It's been giving a silent treatment to my adrenal gland. So I have an adrenal deficiency now. So my body doesn't produce cortisol. I have to take synthetic cortisol, hydrocortisone every day because it has not rebounded. And that was something different that didn't happen during the first surgery, but happened during the second surgery.
Like science and body stuff is just...
It's annoying. I mean, it's
annoying,
great.
But it's mind-blowing to me.
I love science, but I'm over learning more about the endocrine system.
Right. Yeah.
I just want to be normal again. Not that I ever was like normal.
Who is?
But physically normal would be great. So, and then like because my hormones were more out of whack this time around than they were the first time, I've been put on hormone replacement therapy. Jeez. Again, I just wanted to have another baby. And so in 2025, things you can't control, like weight gain. I put on 20 pounds in a year, which was a lot for me at that time. Yeah. So it was one of those things. I'm like, I ran 1,000 miles in 2025 and it didn't matter. And I was weight training and like some of it sure could be muscle. Would love to think that it was like 20 pounds of muscle and it was just like a brick house. But like, I'm kind of looking at it as like resistance training in a way because like I'm running with more weight. I'm still running quickly-ish. So Bridgett, it was Bridgett's idea. I'm going to blame her. She's 5 minutes older than me, so I'm just going to blame her for everything. Older. She was like, what if we ran the 3 like big spring races? And she called it the Indianapolis like Triple Crown or something. I
love that.
So it was the Indianapolis Mini Marathon, technically it starts with the Carmel Marathon.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's in April. And then the Indianapolis Mini Marathon, which is the half marathon. And then the full Mo, which is the entire length of the Monon Trail, which is a 50K ultra marathon. Like I said, Carmel is typically in April, which it was all set You and I met at the expo, and then it got canceled the morning of because we had some like gnarly storms.
It was just so sad.
I remember, so my big sister Heidi was signed up to run the half, and while we were running the full, and we were getting ready at Bridgett's house, and I had my sparkle freckles on and my lip stain on. And Heidi's like, I just got a text saying that they cancel it. And I was like, Bridgett and I were like, shut the fuck up. Like, are you kidding me? Like, we thought she was like pulling our leg.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, like they just sent it out. And so I really feel for the people who flew in or who booked hotels. But man, if you saw the footage of that finish line.
Right. There was no.
And it's not just like the safety of the people who participate. It is the spectators. It are the volunteers and the police officers. Like, it is a massive undertaking to be able to do that. So they offered a virtual option. So we kind of tucked it into our as a training block is like a long run. So we did the mini, and she and I set like it was her PB. My PB was and when I was 27 in 2014, but she set her PB. That Bridgett was like, I'm going after that 2:15 pace. Keeper, like this is what we're just going to keep chasing after her. And I think we finished in like 2:10. And again, this was less than 6 months after my second surgery.
Right. Yeah. That.
and then in between, so I want to say it was 2 weeks later, we ran the virtual option of the Carmel, and we did it all on the Monon because we knew we were going to be running on the Monon for the full Mo.
Right.
So there's like the rec center on the Monon. Yep. We parked there, and then we ran north up to, there's a park in Sheridan, and then we turned back. But we used that as like a slow training run. No one was setting PBs. We were just like, let's see what we can do because we're running a 50K in 2 weeks. So like, let's just see what we can do. So in May, we ran a half, a full, and a 50K. And that felt like, oh my gosh.
Was it less than 6 months?
So by the time it was all said and done, I think I had just crossed 7 months of post-op. So I like really committed in 2025 and it's great when you have people who like support you and
who are like, go for it.
Yeah.
And a husband like Ryan, who's like, yeah, I like running as well.
Yeah.
So.
And then I was like, well, I did a spring training block, and I've only ever trained for like one race at a time. So like it was either training for the mini or training for the Monumental. I never did two of those in 1 year. And then I just did all this because of the way a training block is. I was like, I can treat these like training runs.
Right, absolutely.
And then I was like, I wonder if I could do that in the fall. So I signed up for the Geist Half Marathon in September, and then I signed up for the Monumental so I could run the Monumental for a second time. And Bridgett was like, look, I'll train with you, but I don't want to commit to another race. And she did. She came to Bloomington, and we did a 20-mile run heading into Monumental. She came and watched me finish at Geist, which was hillier than I expected.
It is sneaky hilly.
I was like, what the heck is this? Like, it was like, boom, 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 boom. Like you'd go up and come down, that really snuck up on me because I'm like, Indianapolis.
Yeah,
so
Indianapolis hills. What are you talking about? Yeah.
No, it's definitely hilly. So if you're considering doing Geist, like.
It's the hilliest race we have, I think. Well, in central Indiana.
Yeah, it was fun. And it was like, it was big, but it was like small. But it wasn't like the size of like a Monumental. It wasn't the size of the Mini. And that area is so beautiful. Like that Fishers area by Geist, like. One of my girlfriends lives up there, and I'm like, you have access to such beautiful like locations. Yeah. Like that was September, 2 days before the Geist Half Marathon. I know I share a lot about the corporate challenge, the YMCA corporate challenge. Yeah. It's kind of like a good segue into that because. So when I started I worked for the IU Foundation, which is the fundraising arm of IU. So anytime you're looking to give a scholarship, usually you're working with someone who's both connected with the university and with the IU Foundation. And I started working there in 2017 at the Welcome Center. So I was like the receptionist, and then have worked in different roles since then. And one of my favorite things, and it's a great way to connect with people you don't usually work with, is the YMCA Corporate Challenge. Once upon a time, I used to work for the Y. I got to live. It's funny you mentioned like me growing up kind of poor, was I got to live vicariously through the YMCA, being a camp counselor at like 18, because like when we were school agers, especially after my parents got divorced, we learned how to cook ramen noodles on an open range stove heading into the 3rd grade. So like, I'm not talking about like the fancy cups, styrofoam cups, which aren't really that fancy, but like we had like the little bricks of noodles, and my mom had an open range stove. There was a lot of trust. And it was like everyone was kind of in survival mode. So like there's a lot of appreciation I have for like the sacrifices my parents made. But I think about that and think about being a parent now and being like, oh, like I love Miles so much, but I'm glad that like we have resources that I didn't have as a kid, and which is so important because I think about the why, and they have an annual campaign every year to help people with financial aid so they can have family memberships, and then it helps fund swim lessons, which are, I mean, that's a life-saving class.
Absolutely.
And then it gives a chance to be kids, whether through giving parents financial aid to support before and after school programming or summer day camp, which again was so much fun to work in as a counselor. And I was eventually a director of youth development at the Muncie YMCA. And like those years were so impactful, especially like as a parent now. Like I look back on those years and like, I don't know how I did it, but like I'm so glad I did. But I think about, you know, where I work now, and there being kind of like a full circle moment when I learned that they participated in Monroe County's corporate challenge. I have like the sentimental value of it, having worked for the Y, but I also am a very competitive person. Not because I'm like the world's best athlete, but I'm like, if I can just show up and like place in my age group, I'm like totally fine with that. And like they have archery, like there's an archery range called Parker's in Spencer. And like, so we go and like, and they donate their time and their space for the YMCA Corporate Challenge. And like, that's become like one of my favorite things. I feel like Katniss. I'm sure the people at Parker's would like roll their eyes at me so hard, but like, that's one of my favorite events. But the top event for me has to be the 5K, not because it's easy, because it's like the hilliest damn 5K course I've ever run. But like the first year I ran it, I was 36 weeks pregnant with Miles.
Right.
And I was like more of an elliptical girl at that point. So like I wasn't like running consistently, and I ran that thing with the full belly. And this last year he ran with me, and he runs. So like I mentioned, Ryan's from Seymour. They have a 5K every year, and the last 3 years he's run it. And this was the first year he didn't stay with me. I also rolled my ankle hard. He took off. He wanted to be up by where Ryan always is. But I ended up rolling my ankle so hard this year. I'm like, I don't want to blame Miles, but I was like, if he and I were just out for a little jog. So I was really worried that I wasn't going to be able to do Monumental because I rolled my ankle so I fell and I busted my knee. I mean, I eventually finished, but it sucked. But I think about like the corporate challenge and being able to do that with my kid. Yeah. And he plays basketball for the Y, and he takes swim lessons through the Y. And sure, we don't necessarily like benefit from financial aid, but like I think about like the kids he's grown close to who probably do, and not that it's my business or anyone else's business who benefits from that. But I think like showing up for our community in that way. And I'm grateful to work for an organization that is committed in that way. Yeah. And so I'm like the biggest cheerleader for the corporate challenge. So I'm like annoy my colleagues. I'm like, did you sign up for something? Because like I think at one point they have like euchre. Like you don't have to be an athlete to do it. You just have to like show up. Yeah, you just have to like show up. They have trivia. Like the Monroe County YMCA does a good job of it. It used to be like a month-long commitment, and so they'd have different events in the evenings, but they like they condense it down to like 2 solid. It's like 11 days.
That would be so fun. I love games. I'm so competitive. I would thrive.
It is. And I'm sure hope other like YMCAs do the corporate challenge, because I think it's a great way to get, and we have a lot of like pharmaceutical companies in Bloomington. Like IU doesn't, I think usually the Kelly School might have a team participate, but like we have like Catalent down there, and then we have one of the big like GLP-1 manufacturers. They have a location now. They participate in the corporate challenge this year. It's just a fun way to like compete. I guess all of us work like office jobs. Some of us like run or have other hobbies, but it's fun. And it's a good, again, it raises money for those programs. So it opens up access to people who wouldn't, like a young Gretchen who could have benefited from summer day camp instead of learning how to cook ramen noodles on an open range stove.
Yeah.
So.
Man, I don't know. That gave you some of your grit and toughness, though, I'm sure. Yeah. That's wild.
We had a neighbor that would call and like lovingly called us like neighborhood urchins because like growing up and knowing what that would be like now, like he would just kind of like joke around, and he's a really nice guy. He would say it in like a jokey way, but I'm like, we kind of were like, we just kind of like floated to like different friends' houses
and like eat all the snacks.
Yes. I mean, the first, I remember like going to my friend Polina's house and having like pita bread for the first time, being like, this is like, I feel like I'm like royalty eating pita bread, and like it's like a favorite snack now, like, yeah. But thinking about, and I'm so grateful that we grew up in the 90s, so it was like a little different than it is now, where we did have like childhood friends in the neighborhood, and we were always welcome in one way or another in someone's house. But it's crazy,
so crazy.
But honestly, like, I'm grateful for, I mean, if you have to be grateful for issues in your childhood, it gives you perspective on what you would do differently as a parent too.
Absolutely.
So, or like how you want to show up for your community if you aren't a parent.
Right.
Because there are a lot of people who, whether they can or can't have kids, or decide they don't want to have kids, who are equally like committed to the success of their communities and like, especially like education.
I'm just like trying to process too the timing of all this and how condensed of a time period it really is. And also having a young kid at this time. And I have, my oldest daughter is going to be 8, or no, she's 8. Shoot, she's going to be 9 in July. So similar age as Miles. And like those years, it's just all hard. Yeah. I mean, it's all hard. But just thinking of all that you went through alongside, not to mention Ryan also going through his own stuff alongside, is just crazy. I remember after meeting you just thinking, not just, but like, you're a marathoner, you're a runner, cool, I remember you had a twin, you're like, okay. And then seeing what you and Ryan shared on Facebook and being like, what? Yeah. Like, surprise. We're just like a mess of medical issues, and we're here at this marathon. I mean, I think it's really
and he
amazing.
He PR'd at that marathon.
Oh my gosh.
So like, and well, I think it's so funny because he ran Chicago in 2013 or 2014. We met at Ball State in 2005 as freshmen. The dorm I lived in, our our cafeteria was like being renovated. So like we had to go to Neuer at Ball State. And so we had some friends that all kind of lived in the same area. We met, we became Facebook friends, and we'd like every once in a while like write on each other's walls. But like I dated someone in high school that I was with in college, that I was with in that my freshman year, and then each of us kind of had a string of serious relationships. And then in 2015, we both ended long-term relationships. In mid-2016, I noticed he was liking all my shit on Instagram, and I was like, do people really call you Ace? Like I sent him a Facebook message.
This reminds me, I need to know about where that comes from. Yes. Yeah.
He says people call him Ace. No one calls him. I mean, some people call him Ace. In like a jokey, okay. Yeah. But like that's like my favorite story, because like we just stayed Facebook friends, and sometimes like I don't want to say that like that's always the best way to go, but I was single at the time, and I was like, oh, like he likes that I'm really into like musical theater, because I was living in Muncie at the time, and I was in 3 back-to-back shows at the Muncie Civic Theater. I was in Mary Poppins, 9 to 5, and Beauty and the Beast. And in 9 to 5, it takes place in the 80s. You have this amazing giant hair. My friend Steven did all of our hair for it, and my hair was really long, so it was like huge. Like he gave me a mane. Like I felt like that's a amazing video vamp. But like Ryan started liking all my stuff, and I'm like, I don't know. After an opening show, you usually go out for like a celebration, and I remember being like a beer in, and I'm like, I think I'm just gonna send him a message. I mean, like, do people really call you Ace? And he was living in Bloomington. I was living in Muncie, and sure enough, like first it was just like messaging on Facebook, and then it was, hey, well, let's switch numbers and let's FaceTime. Before we even went on our first date, we FaceTimed for like 3 or 4 hours, and I was just like, oh, this is so easy. Like this is so easy, and it's not like. And it's so funny because I knew he was a runner, but like he was so attuned to what I was doing. And I think in previous relationships, I had adapted myself to whatever. To that person. Yep. And kind of like muted myself. And at this point, I felt like I was like living like as my truest self. And this was someone who was genuinely attracted to that. And at first it was, I think he showed up to my final show at 9 to 5. He had got, Snapchat, you can tell when someone screenshots something. He had screenshotted
oh my gosh.
Me in like full costume with giant hair, and he and his friend Adam had gotten it screen printed onto a t-shirt. And he showed up to my final show like that. And I was like, oh, ooh. Like, even though like Ryan and I had been like talking a lot at this point, and like, I was just like, this is a lot. I wasn't anticipating this. This is kind of uncomfortable. That kind of gave me pause, but I was like, no, like the only reason it feels uncomfortable is because no one's ever supported you in that way, except for my sisters who are also like musical theater freaks. But he showed up in a way that no one else had showed up for me before. So like when we started dating, it was just like easy. It was kind of a pain because we were 2 hours away from each other. Yeah, why was he
in Bloomington?
Because he was a teacher, and I was working. And actually, at that point, I had left the Y and was working for Ball State. But I was like, we can make this work. Like, this is no big deal. I mean, I work during the week, and then I have rehearsals. But like, he would come up every weekend, and like, he was on summer break too. So like, he would come up for long periods of time, and I was like, this is awesome. And then 6 months later, we got engaged on a cruise. And then just over a month later, we found out we were pregnant and planning an October wedding and getting an October baby. And I found out I was pregnant a week after I had accepted my position at the foundation. So like life just happened, but I was also like 30. Like, it's one thing when it happens, it can be a little jarring, but like there was a lot of life lived in my 20s. Yeah. So when things started to fall into place at 30, I was like, okay, here we go. Like, wow, this is what I wanted. It just happened in an unconventional way. Like, Bridgett and her husband have been together since we were seniors in high school. So summer before our senior year in high school. So like, it's so funny how things just kind of like work out the way they do. Yeah. And like, we were just Facebook friends. It's not like we after like meeting for the first time at Ball State, it's not like we ever took class. I guess at one point he had a class with Bridgett, but he thought it was me. And
That's
he's like,
hilarious.
well, something's wrong with Gretchen. Like,
she's not even,
But it's just funny how like sometimes timing does work out. And now when we got married and we did the for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, for, in sickness and in health, I don't think we expected to have so many in sickness days. But it's also been like really great. like running, we have very different philosophies with running, but I feel like I don't know, these health issues could have been way worse with the wrong person, and he has shown up in so many different ways and kind of like muting his own issues to just show up for me. So it goes beyond like showing up for 9 to 5 in a shirt screen printed with my face on it, but it is how he's like chosen to show up for us. He has his own story. But so yeah, that brings us to like 2026.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. We're in February already.
I know. That is wild. It's crazy. And I feel like it's February and then all of a sudden it's March and then it's spring. Yeah. So that's good. Okay. Well, before we do the end of the podcast questions though, I do want to talk about the Hoosiers. Yeah. I assumed that you had gone to IU because you live in Bloomington and you went to the game in Atlanta. Yeah. And so I just assumed that. And so it's interesting how you ended up there.
So I was a non-traditional student. I dropped out of Ball State because it's expensive to be indecisive, especially when you're poor. So I dropped out and for a while and then would take classes here and there through like WGU or Ivy Tech. And then when I started working for the foundation, they had tuition reimbursement. So I finished my degree online in 2021.
Wow.
But Ryan has his master's in special education from IU. And it's great being townies because we like being able to have access to going to sports. And yeah, so in 2022, it would have been like late winter, early spring. He got us season tickets for the 22 season, which was great because it was such a distraction because we had so many health issues happening. So we had that. Obviously, less than winning seasons in 22 and 23, but 24, we went undefeated at home in 24. We went undefeated at home in 25. So we had major FOMO because we didn't go to the Big Ten championship, which was, an hour away. We had FOMO because we wanted to go to the Rose Bowl, but we were dealing with so much stuff with Benny. Jeez, so it was like, we can't really justify the cost. So as soon as we beat Alabama in the Rose Bowl, Ryan was like, oh, I'm getting tickets to the Peach Bowl. And I was like, okay. It's like spontaneity we didn't have when we had Benny because we would have had to figure out who was going to watch him and being able to leave the house on such short notice. And so that allowed us to have a little bit of spontaneity. So I was like, we go to Hilton Head every year, so I could make that drive to Atlanta in my sleep. And there were so many Indiana plates driving. It was really cool. Yeah. But yeah, so we got to go to the Peach Bowl, and that was like an experience like we'll never forget. And Miles came with us. Like, Miles is a huge IU fan, and he's like born into
That's
it
amazing.
now at this point.
Yeah.
And it's great being in town all the time. I love the electricity when the students come back, but summertime running in Bloomington is wonderful. Is wonderful. I mean, hills suck regardless of where you are, but like I get to run around these like athletic complexes and see.
It's a beautiful campus.
It really is.
Yeah.
I feel really fortunate to live in Bloomington, but yeah, we are big Hoosier fans. I feel like we might get priced out of season tickets this year because obviously there's a demand.
Yeah, I hope not.
But no, even if we do, like, we would like to go to the Big House and watch them play Michigan, just because like it's the Big House, like, and especially with, I know, Kurt Signetti's such a cool guy, and like it's been so much fun to be around and watch all of it happen.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I feel like that's,
as a fan, like
the understatement of the century is saying like, oh yeah, he's great, or like this has been exciting because like it's been like life changing. Like it's changed the culture at IU, and as frustrating it is for like to like welcome fair weather fans. There are a lot of us that were here before, but it's also been great for the university, and I think it's where people like, you know, people want to talk about NIL and talk about donations to athletics, but like athletics is like the gateway to the rest of the university, and there's so many areas of need in the university. I could spend a whole another hour talking about that because that's a part of like what I do at the foundation. So, but yeah, it's been such a great experience to be able to go as like members of the community, but also as like fans. Yeah. And see it through the eyes of Miles.
Even more special.
Yeah.
So congrats, Hoosiers. My husband's a Boilermaker, and so I made a sweatshirt that was black, and I put the Indiana logo on it in gold to just kind of be funny. People, Indiana people were kind of still salty about it. I'm like, it's a joke. Like I'm trying to say like, I'm supporting IU. Go sports. I'm so happy for everybody. But that's so cool.
People pick the weirdest things to get all like.
Right. I'm just like, it's, whatever. So, okay, I'm going to ask you the end of the podcast questions. You just had so much happen in your life that we could talk for even longer than we have. So the first question that I ask everybody is, what is your favorite running mantra and or song?
Well, I think I could do two. I think the song depends on like the day and what kind of run.
That's fair.
But yeah, so I just keep going, which is simple enough. Because even if you have to slow down or you just have to like stop and breathe, what's your next step? Mm-hmm. Just keep moving. And I feel like that has been applied to every
it's like that's your life mantra.
But like my running song, again, it depends. Like it depends on how I'm feeling. But I would say like I almost always feel like I'm being brought back in either with Running Up That Hill.
From Stranger Things.
From Stranger Things by Kate Bush. And then I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. Like,
love the rhythm of that song for sure. Yeah.
And I feel like I can like, like I dance to it when I run. So.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. And then what is your next finish line or milestone?
The next one will be Carmel.
Awesome.
We've also signed up for the Full Mo. Full Mo sold out. We got in right as it sold out.
I think
there were like 16 slots when Ryan registered. I was like,
he's going to do it too?
Yeah, he's doing it again. So he did it last year.
Okay.
Yeah. Bridgett and I are going to do the Triple Crown again. We're going to do Carmel, the Mini, and the Full Mo. And then I've got big plans for the fall. If I'm still not pregnant by like June, then I'm going to commit to Geist again, Monumental again, and then there's the Jackson County 100K.
Oh boy,
which is a trail race, and I've got
a couple friends I'll introduce you to for that.
Like the whole year to train for that, like to work up to that, and I have like trails in my not in my backyard, but down the street that I could like hop on. So,
Gretchen.
So if it's not pregnant by 40, then it'll be I'm going to do 100K by 40.
Yeah. Okay. So, when's your 40th birthday?
December 18th.
Okay. So I turned 40 in July.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Here we are. I know. So I had toyed around with the idea. Still kind of am, because shout out to TJ Daly and Mashinga Misha. But the Full Mo or Prairie on Fire, I've just been more and more intrigued by, especially just over the time I've had this podcast, because I've talked to so many people about it, and I've spectated at both of them, and so I'm just kind of getting a little antsy about it. So like I want to be an ultramarathoner now, and I never ever thought that I would want to go further than 26.2 miles.
The Full Mo was my favorite race of last year. And I did 5 races last year. The Full Mo was my favorite because it was, and I got to see you and your girls that was the last aid station before downtown.
Yeah, it was mile 27.
So it was like just to like feel that support, but like it's just such a different beast. Like even though it feels like a road race because you're on like a paved trail, it's not. And like there are times where you're like, oh my gosh, how far am I away from like the nearest participants? And luckily I have Bridgett with me the whole time.
That's so
like,
nice.
You know, she and I are talking about like the Hunger Games, or, you know, we're talking about like, you know, pop culture, treating it like a long run, but like the aid stations and like the community. So I am my onboarding buddy at the foundation. Even though she was at the foundation before I started and then left and has come back, she did the Jackson County 100K last year. And so she and I were talking about it briefly this week. And I was just like there's just, it's like a different level of community at these races. Like even if you don't belong to the Fishers Run Club, like they welcome you with open arms at their aid station.
Aid station, yes.
And it was just, that's one thing I'm a little envious of Indianapolis and Fishers and Carmel is like, I'm not really plugged into the Bloomington running community. But like seeing like these run clubs just show up for like the community it's really cool. And it's a place of like belonging for anybody. Like you don't have to go out and set records to be a part of the club. Like you're just welcome. And that's really important, especially as we try to like create this space for anybody. Like I think that's why I was so like drawn to like your podcast and like your stories. Like you're trying to like showcase everybody of all like paces and abilities and then like your work with Ainsley's Angels. Like
Yeah, you got to do that at the Mini sometime. Maybe next year. Or maybe, after, I hope you have another baby by then. Yeah, well, and if not, like, I mean, we have this wonderful little 8-year-old that is a Spitfire and really, he's so funny. He is so funny. And like, he would be a great big brother, but I'm also like, you know, we're going to close the chapter. So if we do, then that'll be awesome. And if I do get pregnant, then that would probably be one of my first races back if I am able to get pregnant between now and June. In June, we're gonna like close the door just because like I don't want to be in limbo. Like heading into my 40s. Yeah. Even though there's 40s is like the new 30s. So totally. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Gretchen, thank you so much for doing this. I'm so glad you said yes. And I'm so glad you came here and we got to do it in person. So good to see you. Yes, it's good to see you too. Thank you. And thank you for this platform and then the work you do to like support the running community here is awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to everybody who's listened. Yes, thank you. And happy running. Yep, happy running. If you enjoyed this episode of Finish Lines and Milestones from Sandy Boy Productions, please share, rate, review. I ask you that because it helps other everyday runners find the show, and I can't do this without you. So if you haven't yet rated the show or you haven't subscribed, please go do that. You can also find me on Instagram. I'm AllieTBrett_runs. That's ALLYTBRETT_runs. And if you like this show, you might want to check out other shows in the Sandy Boy Podcast Network. We just announced this week that the Out and Back podcast, which is with Rory Linkletter and Jacob Thompson, both professional marathoners. I can't believe that I'm in a podcast network with these guys, but their show Out and Back is now part of the Sandy Boy Productions family. So go check that out. And you can go to sandyboyproductions.com to see all of the other shows. And I will talk to you again next week. Bye.